Ever the showman, President Donald Trump picks Thanksgiving to pay his first ever visit to Afghanistan, using the occasion to tell US troops based there that talks with the Taliban are back on. Well, let's go live now to political analyst JAVED Rana. Thanks for joining us, sir. Great to have you in the programme on today. Obviously, this has been sold as a surprise visit on Thanksgiving to Afghanistan. Hopefully the talks are going to kick off again, according to the president. What do you think was the real purpose, the principal purpose of this visit to Afghanistan?
Well, he wants to be seen by the American public that he's very much there on his campaign trail. The promise that he had made years ago that he will bring back American troops. And I think that is at the heart of his agenda during his visit to Afghanistan. And the underlying message to the Afghan Taliban are that the talks have been resumed. And I think the template of the talks is more or less is going to be the same. The talks had ended, you may recall, primarily because of the pressure that different lobbies had exerted on President Donald Trump. It was largely because of Indian pressure on President Donald Trump, because India didn't want the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan because of its border tension with Pakistan. Now, again, Americans have a stronger realization that there is no viable option other than to exit from Afghanistan. That is the only viable option. The reason being is that the Taliban already controls 70% Afghan territory, and the regional countries like Pakistan, Iran, Russia, they are very suspicious about the intentions of the US presence in Afghanistan. And both Iran and Russia have gone public. They have blamed US that they are sponsoring Daesh in Afghanistan. They are trying to geostrategically encircle these countries. So in that context, I think the Americans have realized that staying in Afghanistan is no longer a viable option, also because of the fact that the Americans have used almost every conceivable weapons other than nuclear weapons, so they have not been able to regain the territory. So therefore, I think in this situation, this is a signal to the Taliban, and this is also primarily signal to the Ashraf Ghani government that Americans will have to go out from Afghanistan. They are left with no options, and they will have to deal with the Taliban. Now, the bigger question is in what manner there can be a possible negotiations between government in Kabul and the Taliban. Taliban, as you know, they are not willing to talk directly to the government in Kabul, calling them as American puppet. So I think there is a possibility that the Taliban may talk to all groups, all ethnic groups, along with the government in Kabul, but that is likely to be in their unofficial capacity. Something at this particular point of time, the government in Kabul may not be ready, but sooner or later they will have to come to this particular point because they are left with no options. Next year there are going to be presidential election in the US, and President Donald Trump wants everybody to let everybody know that he's the president who is not initiating wars. Rather, he's ending war. He had already taken such initiatives in the Middle East, in Syria specifically, and now I think it is the turn of Afghanistan.
And Trump has portrayed himself as a deal maker. He says he's going to get this great deal with the Taliban, but there's not been a huge amount of success so far. How real is the prospect of reaching a peace deal this year or even early next year?
I think the peace deal is on the card. It is simply a matter of time. There is obvious desperation on the part of the Americans to exit from Afghanistan. Though Pentagon wanted to stay in Afghanistan, previously President Obama had realized this, and now President Donald Trump has realized that staying in Afghanistan is no longer an option, because the more firepower that Americans have used against Taliban, the more territory they have gained, and then they are sponsoring a government which is perceived to be thoroughly corrupt, the government where Taliban have their moles inside, the government from where their troops have been attacking American forces. So American troops feel very insecure, and there have been many casualties of American troops in Afghanistan most recently. So I think in that context, I don't think Americans has got any viable option other than to leave leave Afghanistan, but certainly the US doesn't want to be seen that it is a state which has been defeated after former Soviet Union. So therefore, they are trying to take many other countries in confidence, like their NATO allies, like other European allies, like China and Russia. But at this particular point of time, I think sooner or later, I foresee a deal between Taliban and American, and I think it is going to be largely on the terms and conditions laid down by the Afghan Taliban, who has got a clear leverage on the ground.
All right, JAVED RANA, political analyst, thanks for that. Great to get your take on that visit and ongoing talks.